All right, welcome to vlog number 8 this year, August. What I'm going to do this month is talk about my Cayman. This is the 1-year review of ownership. I've had it for a little over a year now, and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. I'm going to go over a few things with you. How long I've had it, what I think about it, how I've been living with it as a daily driver, servicing costs, and what I've had to do to it to keep it on the road. My favorite features, and then sort of the driving experience, what I think about the car as a driving machine and as an experience. So let's get started. So how long have I had the Cayman? I've had it, I bought it in July of last year, 2016. I bought it from a local guy who advertised for it on PCA. He didn't have any photos on it, which I think is why it wasn't selling immediately, because he didn't know how to make an ad. But luckily it met all my criteria, and I went and looked at it, and the price was right, and I bought it. I had 35,000 miles on it at the time, and now I've got 46,000 miles, so I put a little over 10,000 miles on it in over a year. I didn't drive it all winter. I was prepared for it. I bought tires and wheels for it as a separate set, but I didn't do it because I had another vehicle I had. So I drove that instead, which saved 4 or 5 months of driving on this. But I am prepared for it. I did take it out for a couple drives in the winter and drove it in the snow and the ice, and it did just fine. So if you haven't noticed, I'm doing this a little bit Doug DeMure style, just to kind of give you a more just classic review on a car. So what do I think of the Cayman as a vehicle? So far, as an owner, I've been very much enjoying it. Comparing it to a car like a 911, I've driven a 911 many times. 911 feels more like a Porsche, you know, just like it's the classic car. It's hard to beat that. But as a vehicle, this is superior. It is better. It's a better concept. I've got a full frunk. I've got more cargo space in the back. I've got plenty of room in the interior. The weight balance is, I haven't really tracked the car enough to really feel the difference, but I know it's very good. It handles great. So that's what it's like. The style and design are pretty good. This car is over 10 years old now, and I think the design is very good. It still catches a lot of attention. There's a couple of things on it that are starting to look older. That's the taillights and the headlights. Those have gotten the oldest, the fastest. Other than that, though, I think it still looks really good, and it certainly gets plenty of attention. This particular car I got for a good price, basically because it has no options on it. The only real options on it were the lobster claws. These are 19-inch lobster claw wheels. Those are the only option that was really ticked on this car. Other than that, it's got the basic seats. It's got no upgraded stereo. It's got the basic stereo, no Bose. Nothing fancy, not even heated seats, which I'm a little jealous of in Minnesota here, but it could have more features, but I'm happy to have the car despite no features. So what is this car like to live with? So far it's been really good. This car has got lots of cargo space, which I'm going to show you. Fuel mileage, I'm going to go through all of it, so let me walk you through that. First off, the cargo capacity. Pitted against a 911, which this basically has the same front end as a 911 of the day, and therefore the same front cargo space as the 911. So that is the same. Unfortunately for a 911, it doesn't have a trunk because the engine's back there. It does have a rear seat, but it's really hard to access, and it's pretty small anyway. This has this rear cargo space, and then on top of the engine here, which I fit stuff all the time, and I'm going to show you how much I can fit in there on a daily basis for most of my shoots that I do and work that I have. I carry a lot of gear with me, and it has to all fit, and that was a big check mark I had to have on my next car, which this checked. Fuel mileage is pretty good. So my averaged combined mileage right now is about 19.3, which isn't great. That's a little bit of the times. On the highway, I can get between 25 and 30 miles per gallon if I'm taking it pretty easy, which that's acceptable. The interior cargo space is also pretty good. It's not fun to get in and out of, But once you're in, it's really nice. I've got lots of cubbies in the holes. I've got more cubbies. I've got a full nice glove box. I've got a little net back here with 2 little cubbies on both sides of the motor. Plenty of space behind the seats too. I have some like car care things I carry with me every day. Really not that bad at all. It's nice. I'm 6'2" and I have most of my height in my torso, which works for me for this car because the headroom is plentiful, but the leg room can be bad. For instance, I have a friend who's got the same height as me, but he's got more of it in his legs. So he kind of sits like this with his knees up against the dashboard, which don't work. As far as living with the car, one little quirk is with this key, the Porsche key. I've found that my house, I live above my garage sort of, and somehow, even if I don't hit the button, I swear to you, I don't hit the button, somehow it still unlocks the front and rear hatches and sometimes locks the doors. So I don't know if it's a battery problem. I might have to replace the battery, but also these buttons are just easy to push. Too easy. Living with the car is really nice because it's still a fun, attractive car. I get lots of looks for this car, despite its age. That tells me it's aging well. Yeah, people like it. It's a fun car. So servicing this car has been pretty easy so far. I'm going to run through a couple things that have gone wrong, and as well as my costs associated with them. The first thing has just been the oil changes. I do the oil changes myself every 5,000 miles with full synthetic, Mobil 1 recommended oil that Porsche has. And it's really easy. Access to the oil filter and the drain plugs are just dead simple. I do it in about an hour on my own because I don't have a jacks and everything, or I don't have a lift. But it's really easy, and each time I do that, it's about a little under $100 for the oil filter and the oil, which is easy. I did replace the tires on it this year. I did another video about that, and those were, I forgot how much, but it's not bad. Tires are not bad. These are 265 rear width tires, which they're still way cheaper than some other tires that are out there. I get a lot of crap from haters about the IMS issue, but I've been pretty much reassured by the real Porsche owners of this generation that as long as you drive the car and do regular oil changes, you're not going to run into that issue. That issue kind of comes up when the car sits for long periods of time and is neglected on service. So I'm not really worried about that. That's why I own the car. That's why I bought the car. So I was reassured by that. It's like less than a 1% chance that the IMS bearing can fail on this car, which I can live with. Things that have gone wrong with this car. The first one was the starter motor. Believe it or not, the starter motor went bad on this car. I called up the Porsche dealership. They wanted $1,130 for the part alone, which I basically just hung up the phone on them. And my brother helped me get a part from Napa, and it cost me $250 with the core charge, or with the core replacement. And it took us about an hour and a half to replace ourselves. Pretty straightforward. I just remove a couple things on the top of the motor and the belt access panel behind the seats to get in there and get it out and get the new one in. Works perfectly ever since we did that. The only other thing was the coolant. I had a coolant replacement, coolant flush on this car a couple months ago, or a little over a month ago. The level light blinked on me and I checked it, and I just was worried about it, and I just said, let's just do the replacement coolant, and no issues, of course, so far. So the features I really like about this car, basically just the overall design. I think it really flows nicely. The lines of the car are beautiful. This is obviously some of my favorite parts right here. Just beautiful arch over the rear wheel. As you can see it well in the rear view mirror when you're looking back. It looks so nice. You feel like you're in a really nice sports car, and it gives you that 911 wide body feel, like you're in a turbo or a four-wheel drive one with the wider hips that just look really nice. You get that in any Cayman, so that's one big advantage. I love the simplicity of the interior as well. I know it's not very well equipped, but just the overall flow and design of it's really nice. It's easy to find what you're looking for, and everything makes sense. And It looks really nice. It feels like a quality German vehicle, and nothing feels too cheap in there, which is nice. The one option I said this car does have are these lobster claws, the 19-inch lobster claws. I really like these wheels as a stock wheel. In fact, like, I would go buy really nice BBSs or nothing, because these are, I really like them. I'm going to live with them for a long time because I think they look really nice. They're starting to look a little chipped from the previous owner, so I might have them refinished at some point, but that'll come in due time. So one last thing I want to talk to you about is the driving experience of this car. It's got 295 horsepower to the rear wheels, and it's plenty for the street and even the racetrack. You really don't need much more than that, and it allows me to be able to drive fast kind of anywhere I'm at. I get to go through the gears. I'm still pretty fast compared to most things out there, so you still have to watch it, but it's plenty for the street. It's a lot of fun. The engine note is really good too. This only has the stock exhaust, not even the sport upgraded exhaust from Porsche, and I've still gotten lots and lots of compliments on how this thing sounds. Of course, that's a little bit the way you drive. You can, short shift and keep it quiet, but if you're revving it out, it does sound good. It really does. Even in the interior, it's got a great rumble behind the seats, and that flat six sound is super iconic, and you definitely know you're in a Porsche, which is sweet. So most places I go on a photo shoot, I bring my generator and all my equipment with, which I put in the front trunk, or the frunk as it's commonly referred to in the Porsche community. My generator is a Honda EU 2000i. Easily fits in there with tons of space around it, which I fill with other camera equipment and grip equipment, which is good, and it all fits in there and it closes up real nice. So awesome. In the back, there's still a ton of room. I could fit back here if I needed to. Probably have to crack my leg, but it would still work. I put all my longer stuff here, my light poles and my tripod and things. And then if I have to, I'll put boxes or whatever I have up here, cases that I bring along as well. It's surprisingly deceiving. You've got a lot of extra room behind the taillights. It goes in there quite a bit, and it's just stuff just fits in there. It's amazing. Those Porsche engineers were thinking when they built this car about every extra possible, cubic inch of room they could squeeze out of it, and it's true. Plus, you've got little cubbies on the sides of the engine up here on both sides where you can fit stuff. It's amazing. Sometimes when you're